Baruch Levi B here from Soul Centered. Thanks for tuning in. Today I want to talk about a blog I just wrote and an incredibly important conversation around mental health and wellness and bringing it out of the shadows in our society, in our families, in our relationships, in our communities, to be able to be honest finally and fully if we are struggling with some form of mental health issues, some struggles that are going on the inside that we just haven't been able to articulate to the people around us because we've been made to feel unsafe to share this particular topic, or we just haven't even broached the subject because we do feel unsafe, whether or not the people around us make us feel that way or not. I spend my life counseling people to live the truth, their truth, to speak their truth. We live in a world where it is just too easy to put on a persona, a mask, and play the game and pretend and put on the smile and suck it up and tough it out. And there are deep and devastating consequences to that mentality. We live in a world where we don't have to do that for many areas or issues anymore. We don't have to hide it away, hide who we truly are. We don't have to live in the closet in so many areas, and thank God for it. When I was growing up, 70s, 80s, there were lots of things that were off limits, that were not allowed, at least in my house, I think most people's homes, around the dinner table for conversation. I often call them the dark Ds. Divorce was one of them. We weren't allowed to talk about the divorces in my home or my extended family. Just really was kind of a hush-hush conversation. Disease in general, you just didn't talk about certain things. Sexuality, that doesn't start with the D, does it? But that was off limits for sure. Now all of these things are part and parcel of my family's conversation, hopefully your family's conversation. Very few things in our society that are off limits except one of those Ds. And that is depression, and not just depression, but anxiety and mental health and wellness issues. It's still taboo. It's still off limits. All day, every day, I counsel people, many of whom, like you, are struggling with one of those dark Ds, and especially issues around mental health and wellness. It's statistically, that's the way it is, right? What is it? 1 in 4 people are struggling with, battling clinical depression, but that's just clinical depression. I mean, I would argue the majority of people I know have varying degrees of depression, certainly at different times in our life, situational depression. So we all struggle with it at times, and some of us struggle with it chronically. 1 in 4 or 5 Americans is on an antidepressant, right? This is stuff that is out in the world, it's in our lives, and yet somehow it's still off limits. I counsel people who are out sexually, right? I know one guy that I counsel, he's out as a gay man, and his family has come to terms with it years ago. They're fine with it, but he can't tell them that he's on antidepressants, or he feels like he can't tell them. He certainly doesn't want to share it with his outer circle, with his employer, for fear of the stigma that still surrounds it in the year 2021. And how do we know it's still a stigma? Because when Simone Biles stepped up and said, I'm not competing in this event, and we know she went on later to compete in another event, but her first series of events, or was it the second series, she said, I'm not competing, and she told us why. And if you look at after she told us why, because of her mental health and wellness, she needed to take care of herself, the internet erupted with buzz. Much of it was positive, and that is tremendous for our society, that we can have positive responses to somebody who's struggling with mental health and wellness issues, like Simone Biles, like Naomi Osaka, who shared with us a couple months ago her struggles. But there was a lot of animosity. There was a lot of negativity towards Naomi, towards Simone, after she said what she said. I read a few things here. I wrote them down. How dare she quit on Team USA? I read this on Twitter or Facebook. She owes us, right? Like, she owes us. So she should put aside her mental health and wellness issues. She failed the U.S. Who does she think she is? How dare she step aside? Really? Suck it up. Tough it out. That's all this is about. One commentary said on, I think, Facebook, that's all this is about. As if if she broke her limb, nobody would say, that's all this is about, a broken arm. Broken arms, in some ways, are easier to deal with than mental health and wellness issues. Mental health and wellness issues are far more complicated. They're certainly far more personal. You can't know the struggles and the suffering that somebody else is enduring, and it's not up for you or for me to judge. It's for us to create a supportive context for them to be honest and have the courage to come out of the mental health and wellness closet, come out from behind any and all of the dark days, as Simone Biles did. Because what that young woman did is demonstrate the ultimate of courage, the ultimate of the Olympian spirit, right? To step into the arena and give it all and bear it all and leave it all there. And that's what she did. And make no mistake about it, her statements probably will save lives. After she announced what she did, I started kind of digging in a little bit to Olympians and mental health and wellness issues that they struggle with in particular. There is an amazing documentary out there called The Weight of Gold. You must watch it. It's narrated by Michael Phelps. And he talks about, he talks about his own journey, but other Olympians talk about their own journeys of struggling with the pressures that we, average people watching them just can't even imagine. The pressures that they are under, that they undergo, they endure. And in it, he talks about suicide. And suicide is a very real phenomenon in our world, in our society. I think it's the 10th leading cause of death in America. Something like 50,000 people kill themselves every year. And Olympians are disproportionately affected by this. I mean, there's a long list of Olympians who have taken their lives, sadly, tragically, in no small measure because they struggled with mental health and wellness issues, and in no small measure because we created a society that didn't allow for them to come out of that closet, to say what they were struggling with, to be honest, as did Simone Biles. So thank you, Simone, for bringing light to this very dark and difficult conversation. Thank you for stepping us up and showing us what it means to be a true world-class, not only Olympian, but human being. And to anybody and everybody out there who is struggling with any one of the dark Ds, and especially depression and other mental health and wellness issues, take your cues from Simone Biles, step out onto the mat, summons the courage, as hard as it is, to be honest, to be truthful, to share it with people who can and will support you. Find somebody to support you on your journey, because as she demonstrated, you can get back onto the bars, onto the beam, and ultimately continue on with your life. But it begins by coming out of that darkness and having that courage. Thank you, Simone. You are truly an inspiration, and you truly this year delivered gold. So you can learn more about Soul Centered and the work that I do and my wife Ariella does in guiding people through all kinds of darkness, finding and discovering the light in your life at mysoulcenter.org. Until next time, and I would love to hear from you, info@mysoulcenter.org. Take care. Shalom, salam, namaste. Peace.